my use of is 1989. I short stint in the media world with the Guardian. That would probably surprise you. And then I quickly crossed over to the banking world and started my banking career. Done about 30 years in banking before His Excellency the Governor, His Excellency Mr. Udom Kabir Emmanuel, invited me to join the Akwa Ibom State government in the capacity, in the role of the executive chairman of Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service. So that's been my career trajectory in the past 30-something years.
So how's it been for you now? You come on board as chairman of this very important organization in Akwa Ibom State. How's it been for you from the time you came into office and up to now?
Very interesting, very exciting, high moments, low moments, you know, and ups, downs, pluses, minuses, but the sum total of all this, big pluses. You know, I give it all to God Almighty. Next to that, quickly, next to that is His Excellency Governor Emmanuel, who in the first instance invited me and gave me the opportunity to come and serve Akwa Ibom State in this responsibility. You know, so in the course of doing this, I have had more national exposure and even international exposure. As I speak to you now, I'm a member of the Joint Tax Board, which is the board that brings together, umbrella that brings together all the tax authorities in the federation. You know, and also I sit in the council of the CIT and Children's Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. You know, as a council member representing the Joint Tax Board. And some other exposures at national level and state level that make it very interesting. So beyond, you know, the routine job of tax administration, you know, I've been involved in a supportive role to His Excellency the Governor in the administration of the state in the areas that my inputs are required and my supports are required. You know, but another opportunity that I like so much, which this job has given me, is that opportunity to serve my people, to be closer to my people. You know, in banking, I was out there at the national level, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, you know. I was not as close to my people as I could be. I did not also have the opportunity to serve them from a close range. But this has brought me home, and I'm very happy to be with my people and contribute my quota to the development of Akwa Ibom State. And then you know, so that's quite a very exciting part of all this for me. You know, beyond the transformation in Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service, and you know, the upping of the game in terms of tax administration in our own tax ecosystem in Akwa Ibom State. So a lot of ups. You know, we'll talk about the downsides, but okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, that's nice. But before we go into, I mean, you were working in the banking sector, the private sector, you came into government cycle. I know it's a whole lot different, or you want to tell us if it's different, because banking in the private sector is not the same thing what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
Let's go into taxation, which is all what you're doing around.
Yeah.
Before we go into that, I think it's better for us to understand or to enlighten the people who are watching us. In a layman's understanding, how would you put it to the understanding what tax is all about?
Thank you. Very important question, because that's the fundamentals. I won't go into a definition, technical definition, but I'll just summarize it by saying that tax is that mandatory contribution by law on all taxable adults in the country, you know, to give back a part of their income towards the development of the nation, development of the state. Yes, it's a contribution, but it's a mandatory contribution once you get to taxable age, which is 18. You know, so it's as simple as that, and it comes in many ways. You know, by ways of outright taxes. Some comes as way of levies, charges, fees, and all that amount to what we call the bucket of revenue. You know, so, and these are all mandatory payments or contributions that any citizen of the taxable age must make towards the development of the nation, of the state, and whichever tax jurisdiction he belongs to.
From the look of all things, it's like civil servants or people who work in the public sector or private sector as well are people who are more like compliant in terms of trying to ensure that they pay their taxes regularly because it's taken from their salaries.
From source.
Yes, from source. So how do you get around this for those who are not public sector workers?
Well, I would think there are a bit more buckets than public sector and non-public sector. The public sector workers, the civil servant, public service, they are there and straightforward, like you said, from payee, check off from source at the point of payment of their salaries. There are people in organized private sector. They also remit their payees, the payees of their staff. What I mean by pay is pay as you earn taxes on behalf of their staff. What the law says that the employer is an agent to the tax authority. So we hold the employers, the company, the organizations responsible to register with us and remit taxes, income taxes of their employees to the tax authority. So for companies that are registered, that are incorporated, pretty straightforward as that of civil servants or public servants. The other bit of it, the other bucket is the unstructured private sector. Those who do their businesses that maybe 2 or 3% or family business that don't come under the radar. What I mean by radar here are not keeping their books effectively as they should keep. They are not so well organized in a way and manner that can really hold them. And that's between what we call informal sector and some underground economy. Permit me to use that word loosely, underground economy. And what we do is that we set up assessment teams for direct assessment. For instance, in the state we have 34 tax offices across the 31 local government areas of Akwa Ibom State, and those tax offices are, populated by tax officers, whom we call assessment authorities. They go into their district, their jurisdiction. We define the jurisdictions. They go into their jurisdictions and get taxpayers or people that are supposed to be taxpayers into the tax net. They invite them for a meeting, go out there and scout out for them, and then get them into the tax net, do assessment of their income for the previous year, and then make a demand on them. And then they come forward and pay. Some don't pay, but we try to get as much as we come into the tax net. The same thing goes with the small and medium scale, the informal sector that are not structured. Like for instance, those selling in the market. Everyone that earns income, irrespective of your kind of business, is supposed to come into the tax net. So we also have officers whose responsibilities are to go into the field and using tax intelligence and other sources of information, data, to get those people into the tax net, and then also to try to help them to organize their business in a way and manner that can be reported, and can come into under the purview of the tax authority, So then, funny enough, that's the greater part of the tax population, the unstructured. Yeah, because in an economy like ours, the sub-economy like ours, you find that the informal sector is the larger chunk of the economy, and so you must just design strategy to be able to bring them into the tax net as much as practically possible.
So now, going back to your definition of what tax is all about, you made mention of some keywords. I'd like to
mandatory contribution. Contribution.
Yes. For all taxable adults.
Yes, towards development of the
country. I'm concerned, like any person on the street would be concerned, about people who are not working. And they're adults and they've not got things to really hang on to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do some little work of income to bring to the table. Or they're merely struggling with their little businesses. How do they come to this tax web kind of?
Well, there's tax is basically guided by law. There are laws of the land. Some are embedded in the Constitution. Some other external laws exist. So we go by the laws. The law says that if you are 18 and above, you must pay taxes. True also is that taxes are supposed to be paid from income. We don't have any way of, knowing how much income people earn, except for those who are earning salaries, So we will assume that you earn income in the first instance. That everyone above 18 is income, working class, or doing his own business, or have a way of surviving. In anyhow that you make income, in any way whatsoever that you make income, it is that income that we go after. If you make 1,000 naira a year, is that 1,000 naira that we think we should come into the tax net. But there are several laws, and the Finance Acts have made some modifications. For instance, currently, those under the what do you call minimum wage? Is it minimum? Yeah, minimum wage are exempted from income tax. That was, I think, the Finance Act of last year or 2 years ago. So that has exempted them from. So those, by law are exempted. But others who don't have that exemption by law, they must pay their taxes. I once living in a state, I won't mention them. That the rule was that so long as you walk the street of that state, you are, benefiting from the infrastructure. You are benefiting from the social amenities that are being provided. So, you got to pay your taxes if you are up to taxable age. Otherwise, you could find a space to live so that you won't pay taxes.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. Do local and state governments collect taxes, the same level of taxes? They don't collect taxes better. Is it the same level?
Yeah, the tax administration structure in Nigeria is segmented into 3 tiers, just like the government. We have the Federal Tax Authority, represented by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. We have the State Tax Authority, represented by the State Board of Internal Revenue. And then we have the Local Government Tax Authority. They have their own tax committee. So interesting thing is that these 3 tax tiers collect different type of taxes. So there's no conflict. The law clearly spells out, if you go to the approved list of collection, the law clearly spells out what federal government should collect, what state government should collect, and what local government should collect. Local government cannot collect what state is collecting, otherwise that would be double taxation. I can point out, for instance, at the federal level, the company income tax is collected by federal government. Petroleum income tax is collected by federal government. Some part of withholding tax accruing from limited liability companies is collected by federal government. VAT is collected by federal government, and so on and so forth. Whereas the personal income tax is collected by state government largely, because there are few personal income tax like the military and all that. Those ones go to federal government, and then you go to the state, the local government. They collect some taxes like shop rates, for shops, market rates in the market, then signages, and so you won't see state government go to collect that. If that happens, then there's someone doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah.
Okay. What's the difference between tax collectible by local and state government?
That's what I just explained. The difference is that the law stipulates clearly what local government should collect, and what federal government collects, and what the state government collects. And these are in the schedules, in the approved list of collections, in the law, in the constitution, and so those are a matter of details now. To give you, I can give you the list after this discussion.
I would love to go quickly to the aspect of complaints, numbers to call, in case they have complaints from taxpayers. So before I go into that, let me just go straight to talk about the evasion of tax. And I think it should be challenged here. How do you handle people who evade tax payments?
Wow, tax evasion is a common occurrence everywhere in the world. Ordinarily, people don't like paying taxes. Very few people, if there's any, that would ordinarily want to pay taxes, except there's some measure of enforcement for people to comply with the tax law. So you see, that's why we have laws and policies and processes and procedures that enable us, tax authority, tax administrators, to be able to enforce, the tax laws on taxable adults. But evasion is everywhere, I mean, there's the corollary, the flip side of evasion is, what we call tax avoidance. Avoidance by law is not illegal. Avoidance is where you can, applying the tax law in a way and manner that makes you not pay what you should not pay for, and that's legal. You get that's right. So I mean,
but how are you dealing with this challenge? Because it could be a challenge. I mean, it's global that people just evade, love to, run from paying taxes. But how do you handle this as an organization?
Okay, so when people evade taxes, what we do to get people into the tax net, for those who are not already in the tax net, we have tax intelligence. We have a department in charge of providing intelligence. We also source information from related organizations that have a database, to give us data about, people are doing business with them. For instance, we have the Nigerian identity card, NIMC, yes. We also have BVN. We have so many sources of driver license that provides a database for us to know who is operating your environment, And then banks, of course, also give us information about those that have account with them. And then people go on the street, go on the field. We deploy field workers to, comb the street, to comb the field and find out those who are not in the tax net. So that's for those who are not in the tax net. But there are those who are in the tax net and they still evade, So what we do, we go out there for audit to see, we demand that there's, on annual basis, there's something what we call annual tax returns to show how they complied with the tax requirements of previous year. When those returns are submitted, we scrutinize them. And if there are some, gaps, we call on them to come and explain those gaps, otherwise pay those taxes. And then we also go on routine audit for companies that are taxpayers. And then the audit will throw up some information that could be interpreted to mean that there was some evasion or sort. And then we demand them to pay. And if they don't, of course, we follow the due process, which is to go through the legal process, sue, then obtain court orders, maybe to restrain the organization, restrain the organization, maybe to get them to get some judgment that can make us them liable to honor their tax debt and all that. So if you, just as a tax administrator, you must have a clear-cut strategy on how to deal with tax evasion. Otherwise, you're finished.
Okay, apart from tax evasion, are there other challenges you want to share with us that you've had as an organization and how you're dealing with these challenges?
Well, in the course of our chat, we've talked about data. The big thing about tax is data, information about taxpayers and those who are supposed to be taxpayers who are not paying. The greatest challenge that we have now, even as a national body, JTB and other tax authorities, is data, information. We're still struggling as a nation to build a big database that you can get information about anyone at the flip of your finger or the touch of a button, So we are trying to overcome that. That's why here the department in charge of data intelligence is big to gather data, to get data from JTB, Joint Tax Board, get data from the field, get data from other sources. That's been our major challenge. And for instance, the Akwa Ibom State, we think that we are between 6 to 7 million people. If about 40% of that supposed to be taxpayers, how much do we have in database? in our own database. So that's one of the big problems that we have.
Talking about challenges and complaints, I mean, where would a taxpayer go to make complaints coming to your office? How do they reach you?
Okay, taxpayers can resort to, first and foremost, can call us on phone. I'm going to give the phone numbers. Can call us on phone. Can reach us through our website, through email addresses. Can write letters to us. Can come in person. And we have tax offices, like I said earlier, 34 tax offices across the state. So that you don't need to come here to be able to lodge your complaint. You can go to the nearest tax office in your local government and lay your complaint. But if you want to phone in, then the numbers, I will supply the numbers before we finish the interview or this discussion.
I can as well do that so that people can also, wherever they are, could watch and then get those numbers. The number to call, I got here, 090-356-95016.
Correct.
090-356-95016. Another number to call or send a message is 081 081 3929 7730. Again, 081 3929 7730.
Correct.
You can reach the Department of State Internal Revenue Service to make your complaint, and they'll be there to help you run around your business. Let's move ahead. So, Mr. Court, let's look at the haulage fee. Loading and offloading is a state tax and not a local government. How do you explain this? First of all.
Well, like I said earlier, some taxes come by way of fees and charges and levies. In the transport sector, there's what we call haulage, movement of goods, through trucks, lorries, tippers and all that. There are fees that are payable by the owners of the vehicles that carry out that operation. Those fees are by law supposed to be charged and made payable to the state government, not the local government. Local government is supposed to be limit the operation to the market itself, but the movement of the goods from one state to the other or intrastates, the levies for that haulage is payable to the state government, not local government. I think that's what the explanation that needs to be emphasized, so that people don't wrongly pay what's supposed to go to the state government to the local government. But beyond that, the Joint Tax Board, which is the umbrella body for all the tax authorities in Nigeria, including the FIRS, have come up with a program to harmonize collection of haulages and then stickers. You notice that some vehicles, they have stickers. Some place you go to, they will demand some stickers for one purpose or the other, one reason or the other. What used to happen is that every state used to have their own stickers. So as you're moving from one state to the other, you pay in Akwa Ibom, then you get to a neighboring state, maybe Abia or Cross River or Rivers, you pay that one, and then before you get to your destination, you perhaps would have to encounter so many of such demand for payment of those stickers. So, but the Joint Tax Board has come together and said, look, for ease of doing business, let's stop all this. Let's come together and come up with a unified, harmonized sticker for interstate movements, so that moving from one state to the other, you only pay once. You don't have to pay as you move from one state to the other. And then, for instance, for haulage, then you pay at the point that some you pay at the point of loading, and some you pay at the point of offloading, So that would bring sanity into that sector, and especially for the ease of doing business across the country.
So how long has the 6 stickers and emblems been running?
It's been running for as long as we can remember, but the Joint Tax Board just came up this year. We started this year, this joint action and unified stickers and haulage fees this year, and that's going on very well. And there will be hiccups along the way, but we'll continue to fine tune You know, the experience of this year will help us in fine-tune the dynamics and the procedures even better in the consequent years,
Okay.
subsequent years. Sorry.
What's the acceptability so far from the people? I mean, how are they embracing this policy?
Yeah, the transport unions are happy with that. I mean, and then the owners of trucks and tippers, lorries are happy with that because, like I said, it simplifies the process and creates harmony. And then, of course, that becomes one booster for ease of doing business in Nigeria.
Okay, well, I just want to just intimate our viewer, in case you're just watching or just joining us. This is a special live interview on the program called Scorecard, reaching you from NTA Uyo, and we are live on our Facebook and YouTube channels and social media platforms. So do well to join us and get to know more about taxation in Akwa Ibom State. We have no other person than the executive chairman of the Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Okun. Let's continue, Mr. Okun. Chairman, let's talk about taxpayers. There's a feeling or there's a statement that taxpayers should beware of touts. Now, let's first of all look at how are you dealing with the touts? How do they differentiate between the touts and the original people in this business to get the tax for government?
Very good question. I really must thank you for bringing that up. You know, in any business, there are always fake and the genuine owners of the business and the business process. You know, dealing with fake and touts, you know, is one of the challenges that we face in tax administration. But what are we talking about here? A situation where people pose as if they are genuine officers of Akwa State Internal Revenue Service, for instance, out there in the street, out there in the public, and misleading people, misguiding people, casing them to pay the monies into their pocket and saying they are representatives of government, which they are not. So to avoid that, to ensure that taxpayers do not fall into the wrong hands, do not fall into the hands of touts, or one, we insist that all tax payments must be made at the bank into accounts designated as Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue accounts, not Okon accounts. If you go to any account and you see that if you are asked to pay into account that is a personal name, please do not pay into a personal name account. All our government accounts, monies must go into government named account. You know, that's one. Number two, we also introduced POSs, you know, as a means of collection. You know, so that POS will also issue, as you pay, it will issue you a receipt. You know, maybe paying with a card or something, and they issue you a receipt, and that receipt will show you that that money is going to government. If tax people come to you and in the name of their workers or staff or officers of Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service, you have the right to demand for the identity cards.
So what's the basic, identification that differentiates between a fake person and the real officers?
First, all our officers go out there with their ID cards of government. With the state government's ID card, they are officers of government, they are working for Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service. Two, they are not likely, you will not likely see a tax officer come alone. We go in teams, you know. And you also have the right, if you are in doubt as a taxpayer, to call these numbers that we've given out to verify, to confirm if those guys are actually from us. Sometimes too, most times too, they come with letters duly signed by the executive chairman. You have the right to come and verify that letter that is actually emanating from us. You know, so we give the taxpayers all those privileges to be able to add, not really privilege, they are right to confirm that whatever letter they receive, whatever communication they receive, or in-person attention that they've been sought for is actually coming from Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service, i.e., the sole agents of Akwa Ibom State government for the purpose of agency of government for the purpose of collecting a tax. So if you are in doubt as a taxpayer, if you are even an iota of doubt, please call in to verify, check, ask for ID card. Sometimes ask for a law that enables them, that allows them to collect that particular tax. We'll show you the law. You know.
I've been having concerns, but I think it may happen, or it may have happened, that people may have fallen as victims into the hands of these fake persons.
Yeah.
Have there been any arrests in the past about these corporators who have been involved in this kind
Of course, we've been cracking down on some cartels. We've been cracking down with the assistance of the police force, with the law enforcement agencies. We've been cracking down on them. But where they will get you cheaply, where they will get the taxpayer cheaply, is the willingness on the part of that taxpayer to part with cash. So a taxpayer of a Akwa State should not pay taxes by cash. If you insist that you must pay the government account, that they should give you government account to pay, and when you get to the bank or whatever, however you want, ensure that that account is actually Akwa State government account. Don't pay into Okono account. No, account. That is not allowed, it's not accepted. It's the one way that TAOs would want to deal with you.
Well, motor dealers in Akwa State, like we say, or they say in your parlance, is that they are not vehicle registration or licensing agents. The public should be wary of these persons. Now, what should the public do now in terms of if they want to acquire motor licensing licenses?
Another very good one. We have observed that motor dealers, some, not all, constitute themselves into tax authorities or motor licensing officers by playing the role of the motor licensing officers. Motor dealers are supposed to sell their vehicles and give the documents of the purchase documents to the buyers, and they will take that document to the motor licensing authorities, which we have in all 81 local government areas of the state. And then the motor licensing authority would guide the owner of the vehicle through the process of registration. If any motor dealer asks to play the role of a licensing authority, I would like to advise, maybe caution my taxpayers or those who want to license their vehicles. So please do not go through any source other than the authorized motor licensing authorities, which is an arm of Akwa State Internal Revenue Service. We have them, the office here with us at Odonoma. We have in all the 31 local government areas of Akwa State. Anyone that, no excuse, yeah. So anyone that comes out and says, I'm going to do your license for you, why would you? The process is quite simple, very straightforward. So why would you need to go through an agent? So if an agent dupes you and collects money from you, that's not the fault of Akwa State. Because we have said, Akwa State Internal Revenue Service, we have said this again and again, don't pass to agents. But some people, they don't have time to go through, come to our office, go through, and decide to send agents. Well, that's at their own peril. But we strongly advise that owners of vehicles who want to register their vehicles should desist from using agents, and including the motor dealers, because they are not a licensed authority.
Okay. Now, registration and renewal of business premises, taxes. I mean, how do you just give us more light on this?
Business premises is one of the levies that are payable to the state government. Business premises means where you are doing business. That premises is charged with some levy according to the various buckets or categories of businesses. Those in the energy sector, oil and gas sector, they pay separate levy. Those in construction, those in general commerce, schools and so on and so forth, they pay different levies. And we normally incorporate this into what we call integrated demand notice when we give them out in January, and then it's being delivered to each and every business premises that we have in the state, and then they should respond to that demand notice accordingly. If you are in doubt again, if you receive a demand notice, integrated demand notice, that you think is not emanating from us, you have the right to clear with us to call in to cross-check that actually the man, and you also notice that the man notices will state the account numbers where you should pay the money, and those are government accounts.
Would you like to share with us the kind of amount of money paid or made payable for this kind of renewal, so that people know?
So that I don't give you a wrong figure, because we have made different buckets, with different amounts. There are some that pay up to 5 million, like construction companies. Oil companies pay a lot more, on annual basis, once per annum, yes.
Okay. All road taxes on mechanical propelled engine include all motor vehicles, tricycles, and all this. Bring us up to speed about this taxes that get
And elements of the law. The law says that for all mechanically propelled vehicles, that charges and levies on them goes to the state government. All mechanically propelled. At the time this law was made, far back in the, in the maybe post-colonial era, there used to be trucks, and there used to be bicycle. Bicycle is not mechanically propelled. It does not have engine, so to speak. Truck does not, the wooden truck doesn't have engine. So the wheelbarrows don't have engine. So those things are not mechanically propelled. Rates on them, charge on them goes to the local government. But anything that has engines, starting from motorcycle, which has engines, motored, then vehicles and all that, whatever charges or rates that we collect on them goes to the state government. That's still part of what we are talking about, differentiation between the various jurisdiction tax authorities. So I think that's what the explanation on that should be very clear. That it's actually amongst us tax administrators that sometimes we create the confusion. But in the minds of in the mind of the taxpayer, it should be clear that for all mechanically propelled vehicles, and then such taxes go to the state government.
Okay, I would also want to know about your good sides of the story. We talked about the good sides a lot earlier, and we'll come to that. I think it's time for us, for our viewer, to also know the good sides you've enjoyed being in this office, and how you've been able to get the tax agreeable for Akwa Ibom State and its people.
One, on the positive side, for me, I've been trained in performance. Performance results, like His Excellency the Governor normally says, results speaks. What excites me about the kind of results, by the grace of God, that we've been able to achieve in the past 5 years, 5 going to 6 years of this board, which was created by His Excellency Governor Emmanuel. So the kind of growth in IGR of the state have been very interesting, and that's make us very elated. That's part of the good side. And then, like I said earlier, the relationship with my people, my coming back home to serve in the state, I'm very happy about that, because it brings me closer to my people, and the opportunity that His Excellency the Governor has given us to be part of this very monumental success that his administration has achieved. It gives us a lot of joy. Who would not like to be part of this very successful administration?
Talking about the excitement that you had coming to work with your people, away from the private sector into the public sector, it leaves a lot of things in the minds of people, I believe. So would you want to share, I'd like you to share with us those achievements you've made in this office that would leave lasting impressions on the minds of the people that you work with?
Thank you. Quickly, when we came here, we set up 5 cardinal objectives for ourselves. And every time we are pressed ourselves as a board, we go through those 5 cardinal objectives. One, we needed to come here to quickly, rapidly increase IGR to help government to fund government programs. That we have achieved, and we are happy with that. Number 2, we also came to introduce technology and automate the processes of tax administration in Akwa Ibom State. That we have done to a large extent. It's a journey. Digitalization is a journey. There's no end to it. So we are on that journey, and we have achieved to a large extent. Number three, we also needed to change the reputation, the institution, the brand of AKS, and that we've successfully done today. I appreciate the when people they speak well of AKRS and our people, and the suspicion that monies are collected into private pockets has significantly gone down. So that reputation has been built, and we are growing the institution to be able to sustain itself beyond this administration. The fiscal environment too. Significantly, we were in the secretariat, and then government magnanimously granted us this property to come and use as our corporate office. And so we moved the head office, the corporate head office of AKS to this Udoroma. You know, the spirit here is different from the spirit in the secretariat, you know. So that's give us, and then our people, the motivation, the morale is very high. The motivation is also right, incentives and team spirit, teamwork, you know, oneness, togetherness. You know, we wouldn't have been able to achieve so much without that team spirit, that oneness of purpose, the cooperation of the people, the staff, management and staff. We work as the one. What I'm saying to you now, if you call any of my staff, from any level, they will say the same thing to you. So that means we are on the same page with almost all our people, you know. So that's a lot of gives me a lot of joy and satisfaction. And then we built a structure that can sustain itself after us, even when we left. And that's most important to us, sustainability, even when we leave. And I think by grace of God, this system, this institution can sustain itself, you know, after we are gone.
Okay, because a lot of people are looking forward to this government as it winds down. Mm-hmm. They would like to begin to count their blessings and name them one by one as we sing in the church.
Yes.
I mean, for you, given this position that you've been there in this capacity and adding your own contribution, worthy contribution, as it were, to the development of Akwa Ibom State, are you satisfied if you're going to leave office today?
If I leave this office today, or whenever I get to leave this office, I will leave a very satisfied man. Very, very satisfied man. It's only one thing that I would like to, I desire to see happen in its fullness in my time. The full implementation of the autonomy. The day we get that done, full implementation, we have autonomy, but it's a process. We've not fully implemented it. The day we get that fully implemented, I will be a very, very happy man, you know, and I can bow out gracefully, you know. So, but today, even if I leave today, I think that I have so many reasons to thank God that we came, we saw, and by grace of God, we've conquered.
Okay, but let's quickly look at the things that the government, incoming government, you would want to present to them moving forward if you're still found in this office. What are the things you'd like to do moving forward into the new administration?
Good enough, we are having a situation of continuity, which I like to thank His Excellency Governor Emmanuel for making that happen. And I'm most grateful to Almighty God for giving us the opportunity to have a continuity, because that's where growth and development can be sustained, you know. And so in that same spirit, in that same manner, we should be able to transit from one administration to the other, you know, to support the incoming administration with sufficient internally generated revenue funds, you know, internally generated revenue to run the administration of government. And of course, the structures are on ground, the fundamentals are set, you know, so by the time the new administration takes off 29th of May this month, then we'll be able to flow. And what we commit to doing in the administration is to continue to increase tax revenue, to enhance the capacity of the government to deliver on its promises.
Okay, quickly before we let you go, because of time constraints, what are the things you want to take your people with, to take your people along, those who are working in your office? I mean, what are the things you want to imbibe in them, the spirit that will continue to put in their utmost in the development of the state by extension?
Yeah, we've shared this with our people several times, so really know, even without saying again today, that the spirit of, we call it spirit of enterprise, performance-driven, work style is the nature that one should imbibe, so be result-oriented, have integrity, because the profession calls for integrity, and also, work, everything you do, let it be towards achieving the common goal of the institution and the common goal of the government and the people. The taxpayers for us are king. We must treat them with respect. We must always treat our taxpayers with respect. They are king, so we don't bully taxpayers. We don't use orthodox methods of tax administration. Persuasion is the better way to get the taxpayers to behave. Otherwise, you can resort to the rule of law by going through the court processes.
Okay. Any last parting words for the taxpayers as well?
I'd like to thank our taxpayers. We wouldn't have achieved that much we have achieved without them, because without the cooperation of the taxpayers, we would have still been maybe in the wilderness. But today we are on a journey to the Canaan land. So I thank my teeming taxpayers in Akwa Ibom State who have imbibed the culture of voluntary compliance, but still a lot more to be done. So I like to beckon on our taxpayers to please keep on paying your taxes, because it's for the public good.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okonokun, for sharing your time with us and your thoughts with us. Thank you for sharing this 15 minutes of talk with you. It was a wonderful conversation, and I trust the viewer out there have also seen and learned one or two things about taxation in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oku. You are welcome. Thank you.